Han Wul adjusted his diplomatic uniform one last time as he stared through the viewport of the UES Harmony. The massive alien space station grew larger with each passing moment. After 50 years of radio signals and careful negotiations, humanity was finally meeting the Galactic Federation face to face. "Ambassador, we're receiving docking instructions," reported Captain Dong Min from the bridge. His voice remained calm, but Han Wul could hear the tension underneath. They all knew how important this moment was for Earth's future. The space station was enormous, easily 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Ships of dozens of different designs floated around it like insects around a hive. Some looked like crystalline sculptures, others resembled living organisms, and a few appeared to be made of pure energy contained in geometric shapes. "Remember, everyone," Han Wul spoke into his communicator, "we follow the peaceful contact protocols exactly. No aggressive movements, no weapons visible, and always appear friendly but not threatening." Dr. So Young, the mission's xenobiologist, looked up from her scanner readings. "The station's atmosphere is suitable for most of the Federation species. We'll need breathing masks in some sections, but nothing dangerous." As the Harmony docked with a soft thud, Han Wul felt the weight of Earth's hopes on his shoulders. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment. Every detail had been planned, every possible scenario discussed. Most importantly, they had all agreed to hide humanity's true nature. The airlock opened with a hiss, and Han Wul got his first look at alien beings in person. 3 creatures waited for them in the docking bay. The first was tall and reptilian, with green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to evaluate everything. The second looked like a walking crystal formation that somehow moved with grace. The third was harder to see clearly, appearing to be made of shifting gas held together by some kind of energy field. "Welcome, humans of Earth," the reptilian being spoke through a translation device. "I am Counselor Vestan of the Vorthak Empire. These are Nexari Prime Velnara and Kelvin Designate Zephyrus." Han Wul bowed respectfully. "Thank you for this historic meeting. I am Ambassador Han Wul, representing the United Earth Government." As they walked through the station's corridors, Han Wul noticed how other aliens looked at the human delegation. Some stared with curiosity, others with what seemed like amusement. A few whispered among themselves, and he caught fragments through the translation system. "So small and soft. Look how they walk on only 2 legs. Do they even have natural weapons?" In the main council chamber, Han Wul found himself surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. The room buzzed with conversations in languages that sounded like music, static, or whale songs. When he entered, many of the conversations stopped as alien eyes focused on him. "The humans request membership in the Galactic Federation," announced Counselor Vestan to the assembly. "They come from a single world and claim to represent their entire species." A being that looked like a massive insect clicked its mandibles. "How many worlds do they control?" "Only one," Han Wul replied honestly. "Earth is our home world, and we have small colonies on a few nearby planets." This caused a ripple of what sounded like laughter throughout the chamber. The crystalline Nexari representative chimed like wind bells. "One world? Most Federation members control hundreds of systems." "What military forces do you possess?" asked a creature that seemed to be made of living metal. Han Wul had prepared for this question. "Earth maintains a small defense fleet for protection against asteroids and space debris. We believe in peaceful solutions to conflicts." More sounds that might have been laughter. Captain Dong Min, standing behind Han Wul, clenched his fists but kept his expression neutral. He knew the truth about Earth's military capabilities, but orders were orders. "Peace is admirable," said Vestan, though his tone suggested he found it amusing rather than admirable. "But the galaxy can be dangerous. How do you protect yourselves?" "We hope that by joining the Federation, we can contribute to galactic peace and prosperity," Han Wul replied. "Humans excel at agriculture, medicine, and engineering. We wish to share our knowledge." Over the following hours, Han Wul answered hundreds of questions. The aliens wanted to know about human biology, psychology, technology, and society. Dr. So Young provided detailed scans and data, all carefully edited to show humans as physically weak and emotionally driven creatures. "Fascinating," commented Velnara, the Nexari representative. Your species shows high levels of emotional response and pack bonding. This suggests you would be excellent workers in situations requiring cooperation. Your physical structure appears optimized for tool use rather than combat, added the metallic being. No natural armor, claws, or weapons. Your reaction times and strength levels are below galactic average. Hanwool nodded and smiled, playing the part perfectly. We've always believed that intelligence and cooperation are more valuable than physical strength. As the session continued, he began to understand how the Federation really worked. The stronger species held the positions of power and military control. Weaker species were assigned roles based on their abilities and usefulness. It was not the equal partnership of civilizations that humanity had hoped for. "We have made our decision," Vestan announced, after the aliens had deliberated privately for an hour. "Humanity will be granted provisional membership in the Federation." Hanwool felt relief wash over him, but Vestan continued. "Your species will be assigned to resource extraction duties in the Outer Rim territories. These are worlds that other species find unsuitable due to toxic atmospheres or dangerous conditions. However, your biological adaptability suggests you could thrive there." The relief turned to concern, but Hanwool kept smiling. "We're honored to contribute to the Federation in any way we can." "The Outer Rim assignment is temporary, of course," added Velnara. "Once you prove your value to the Federation, other opportunities may become available." As the formal ceremony concluded and documents were signed, Captain Dongmin approached Hanwool quietly. "Ambassador, I need to speak with you privately." They found a quiet corner of the observation deck, away from alien ears. "Sir, you know what's really happening here, right?" Dongmin whispered. "They're not treating us as equals. They see us as cheap labor." Hanwool nodded slowly. "I know, Captain, but we stick to the plan. Humanity needs time to build our strength. If they knew what we were really capable of, this meeting would have gone very differently." "The Outer Rim assignment bothers me," Dongmin continued. "Those are dangerous worlds. People are going to die. Some sacrifices are necessary for the greater good," Hanwool replied, though the words tasted bitter. "Earth's survival depends on playing this role convincingly." As the Harmony prepared to leave the station, Hanwool sent his report back to Earth through quantum communication. The message was simple. First contact successful. Humanity accepted into Federation. Begin Phase 2 colonization of assigned territories. What he didn't include in the official report was his growing certainty that this relationship would not end well. The aliens saw humans as useful animals, nothing more. They had no respect for human intelligence or potential. Worse, he had seen how they treated species they considered inferior. Dr. So-Young joined him at the viewport as they undocked from the station. "The biological scans they took worry me," she said quietly. "They're cataloging our weaknesses." "Let them," Hanwool replied. "They're also cataloging what they think are our limitations. That information could be useful someday." As the Harmony jumped to hyperspace, carrying news of humanity's acceptance into galactic civilization, Hanwool allowed himself one moment of honesty. The Federation had no idea what humanity really was. They saw emotional, weak creatures suitable only for dangerous labor. They had never bothered to ask why a species of weak, emotional beings had managed to spread across multiple star systems in just a few centuries. They had never wondered why humans had developed such advanced technology so quickly. Most importantly, they had never asked why every human settlement, no matter how peaceful it appeared, was built like a fortress. The galaxy was about to learn that there was a difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. Humanity had made that choice for 50 years. But choices, Hanwool knew, could always be changed. Governor Jiho stood on the observation deck of New Seoul's administrative tower, watching the sunrise paint the colony's skyline in shades of gold and orange. 25 years had passed since humanity first joined the Federation, and New Seoul had become something beautiful. What started as a toxic mining operation on Kepler 442b had grown into a thriving city of 2.3 million people. The poisonous atmosphere that made other species avoid this world had been slowly cleaned by human engineering. Now children played in parks where once only mining equipment had stood. "Governor, the morning reports are ready," announced his aide. "Young Su, As he entered the observation room, Jiho smiled as he reviewed the data. Mining productivity was up 15% from last year. The new hydroponic farms were exceeding food production targets. Most importantly, the colony's population was growing not just from new arrivals, but from families having children here. Any word from the Federation Council about our request for upgraded status? Jiho asked. Young-Su's expression darkened slightly. No response yet, sir. It's been 8 months since we applied to become a full Federation colony instead of a mining outpost. Jiho nodded, unsurprised. The Federation seemed content to let humans do the dangerous work while keeping them at arm's length politically, but that would change eventually. New Sol was proof that humans could build something remarkable when given the chance. His thoughts were interrupted by his personal communicator. Governor, this is Dr. Minji at the medical center. I need to... See you immediately. It's urgent. 20 minutes later, Jiho sat in Dr. Minji's office, staring at files that made his blood run cold. Medical records, genetic analyses, and photographs of children filled the desk between them. How many? He asked quietly. 47 children, so far, Minji replied, all born to human-alien couples. Most of the alien parents are Federation citizens who were stationed here temporarily for trade or technical work. Jiho picked up one of the photographs. A little girl with her human mother's eyes but skin that had a slight greenish tint from her Vorthak father. She was smiling and holding a drawing she had made. The children are healthy, Minji continued. Hybrid vigor, actually. They're often stronger and smarter than pure human children, but according to Federation law, they're considered genetic contamination, Jiho finished. I know the laws. Federation regulations were clear about species mixing. Any offspring of human-alien relationships were to be immediately reported and removed for biological safety assessment. In practice, this meant the children disappeared forever. The families have been hiding this from Federation inspectors, Minji said. They come to me for private medical care. I've been keeping separate records, but if anyone finds out, Jiho stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city he had helped build. Somewhere out there, families were living in fear that their children would be taken away simply for existing. Keep doing what you're doing, Doctor, he said finally. I'll handle the political side. But before Jiho could figure out how to protect the hybrid children, the decision was taken out of his hands. 3 days later, Young-Su burst into the governor's office without knocking. Sir, we have a problem, a big problem. What is it? Federation. Inspection team just arrived, unannounced. They're already at the spaceport and they brought their own security force. Jiho felt his stomach drop. Unannounced inspections were never good news, but bringing security forces was even worse. How many? 50 Federation officials and 200 armed guards. The lead inspector is demanding immediate access to all colony records, including medical files. Within hours, the Federation inspection team had taken over the administrative center. Jiho watched helplessly as they copied every database and interviewed key personnel. Their leader, a Vorthak official named Inspector Tekvar, moved through the building like he owned it. Governor Jiho, Tekvar said when they finally met, your colony has been operating outside Federation regulations. In what way, Inspector? Biological contamination protocols have been violated. We have evidence of illegal genetic mixing occurring on this world. Jiho kept his expression neutral. I'm not sure what you mean. Tekvar's reptilian features showed what might have been amusement. Dr. Minji has been very cooperative. We now have complete records of 47 illegal hybrid offspring currently residing in your colony. The betrayal hit Jiho like a physical blow. Minji had given them everything to save herself. These children and their families will be removed immediately for biological safety assessment, Tekvar continued. The entire colony will undergo decontamination procedures. What does that mean exactly? It means, Governor, that New Sol has been declared a biological hazard. The Federation Council has voted to sterilize this world to prevent further contamination. The words took a moment to register. When they did, Jiho felt the world tilt around him. Sterilize? You mean evacuate the population? I mean eliminate the contamination source completely, Tekvar replied calmly. The hybrid genetics cannot be allowed to spread. All biological material on this world must be destroyed. There are 2.3 million people here. There are 2.3 million contamination sources here, Tekvar corrected. The Federation's biological purity must be maintained. Jiho realized with growing horror that this had never been about the hybrid children. The Federation had found an excuse to eliminate what they saw as a growing human threat. New Sol had become too successful, too independent. You have 24 hours to prepare any essential personnel for evacuation, Thekvar said. The sterilization fleet will arrive tomorrow. That evening, Jiho called an emergency meeting of the colony's leadership. Young-Su activated every secure communication channel they had. Send this message to Earth immediately, Jiho ordered. Priority Alpha encryption. Tell them what's happening here. Sir, even if Earth gets the message, what can they do? Asked Chief Engineer He-Jin. The nearest Earth fleet is 3 weeks away. I don't know, Jiho admitted. But they need to know what the Federation really thinks of us. As dawn broke over New Sol for the last time, the Federation fleet appeared in orbit. 12 massive warships took positions around the planet. Jiho watched from the emergency command center as evacuation shuttles launched frantically from the spaceport. How many people have we gotten off-world? He asked. Maybe 800, Young-Su replied. The Federation is only allowing essential personnel to leave. They're blocking civilian evacuation ships. On the view screen, Jiho could see the Federation, warships charging their weapons. Fusion torpedoes and plasma cannons that could crack a planet's crust were being aimed at his city. Get me a colony-wide broadcast, he ordered. Governor, this is madness. You need to evacuate now. Get me the broadcast. Moments later, every screen and speaker in New Sol carried Jiho's voice. Citizens of New Sol, this is your governor. The Federation fleet is about to attack our city. Those of you who can reach the emergency shelters, do so now. Those who cannot, know that you made this world beautiful. Earth will remember what we built here. He turned to Young-Su. Send one final message to Earth. Tell them this is what Federation justice looks like. The first fusion torpedo struck the industrial sector at 0847 local time. The explosion could be seen from orbit, a flower of nuclear fire that erased 20 city blocks in an instant. More torpedoes followed, walking across the city in a pattern designed for maximum destruction. He-Jin managed to keep the communication array working long enough to transmit final images back to Earth. The footage showed Federation ships deliberately, targeting hospitals, schools, and civilian shelters. It showed families running through streets as plasma fire rained from the sky. Jiho's last act as governor was to activate New Sol's emergency beacon, broadcasting the colony's final message to any human ship within light years. This is New Sol. The Federation has betrayed us. Warn Earth. Warn them all. Humanity is not safe in this galaxy. When the bombardment ended 6 hours later, New Sol was gone. Where 2.3 million people had lived and worked and dreamed, only radioactive ash remained. Of the hybrid children that had supposedly started this crisis, none survived. Neither did their parents, their grandparents, or anyone who had ever called. New Sol home. The Federation fleet remained in orbit for 3 days, scanning for any signs of life. When they were satisfied that the contamination had been eliminated, they departed for their next assignment. The official Federation report listed the incident as biological hazard sterilization, routine compliance action. It mentioned no children, no families, no dreams turned to ash. In Federation records, 2.3 million human lives were reduced to a single line, contamination source eliminated. But the quantum message burst that He-Jin had managed to send in those final moments reached Earth 3 days later. Along with the emergency beacon data and Dr. Minji's betrayal, it painted a clear picture for Earth's leadership. The Federation hadn't just killed New Sol. They had enjoyed it. They had taken their time, made sure to maximize suffering, and then filed it as routine paperwork. For 50 years, humanity had chosen peace. They had played the role of helpful, harmless junior members of galactic civilization. They had followed Federation law, paid Federation taxes, and died in Federation mines, now 2.3 million. The emergency session of the United Earth Assembly had been going for 18 hours straight. Outside the Geneva headquarters, crowds filled the streets as far as anyone could see. Their chants echoed through the building's walls. Remember, New Sol, no more Federation, war, war, war! President Jae-sung stood at the head of the assembly table, his hands shaking as he held the quantum transmission from New Seoul's final moments. The holographic display showed the same horrific images over and over. Federation ships firing on hospitals, children running through burning streets, families dying in shelters that were supposed to protect them. 3 million citizens, he said, quietly, but his voice carried in the silent chamber. Men, women, children, all dead because 47 kids had mixed DNA. Counselor Park Yoon-soo from the Mars colonies slammed her fist on the table. The Federation murdered our people for sport. They enjoyed it. Look at those recordings. They took their time. The question before us, said Defense Minister Kim Tae-ho carefully, is what we do about it. Around the table, the arguments had been the same for hours. Some wanted immediate military response. Others demanded diplomatic protests. A few suggested withdrawing from the Federation entirely, but everyone knew the truth. Earth seemed helplessly outgunned against an empire. Of thousands of worlds, may I speak? The voice came from the back of the chamber. A woman in military uniform stepped forward. Fleet Admiral Kyung-mi, the head of Earth's small defense force. She rarely attended political meetings, preferring to stay with her ships. Admiral, you're always welcome to speak, President Jae-sung replied. Kyung-mi walked to the front of the chamber, her boots clicking on the marble floor. When she reached the center, she turned to face the assembly. You're all debating the wrong question, she said simply. You're asking what we should do. The question you should be asking is what we can do. Admiral, with respect, said Foreign Minister Lee Sang-ho, our entire fleet is maybe 200 ships. The Federation has tens of thousands. Our official fleet is 200 ships, Kyung-mi corrected. But we haven't been preparing for 50 years just to play nice with aliens who see us as pets. She activated her personal communicator. Computer, authorization Kyung-mi Alpha 7. Begin protocol Lazarus. The lights in the chamber dimmed for a moment, then returned to normal. But something felt different. Outside, the crowds had gone. Quiet. What did you just do? President Jae-sung asked. I activated the Real Earth Defense Force, Kyung-mi replied. The one we've been building since first contact. Before anyone could respond, General Tae-ho's communicator buzzed. Then another. Within seconds, every military officer in the chamber was receiving urgent messages. Admiral, General Tae-ho said slowly, reading his display. I'm getting reports of massive energy signatures throughout the solar system. Unknown ships are powering up from inside Jupiter. Kyung-mi smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Not unknown, General, just hidden. She activated the chamber's main display screen. The image showed Jupiter, but instead of the familiar bands of gas, massive structures were emerging from the planet's clouds. Shipyards, weapons platforms, battle stations that dwarfed anything humanity had ever publicly built. For 50 years, we've been playing the part of harmless newcomers, Kyung-mi continued. But Earth has never stopped being Earth. We are the children of a world where everything wanted to kill us. Did you really think we'd enter a hostile galaxy without backup plans? More images appeared on the screen, from asteroid mining operations that were actually disguised weapons factories, from Mars colonies that turned out to be military training facilities, from peaceful research stations that were building ships the Federation had never seen. The Outer Rim assignments the Federation gave us weren't punishment, she explained. They were gifts. Isolated worlds where we could build in secret. Toxic environments that other species avoided but we could survive in. We've been constructing humanity's real military for decades. Council Leader Kim Min-ji found her voice. How many ships are we talking about? Phase 1. Activation. 3,000 combat vessels, fully crewed and ready for immediate deployment. Phase 2 will add another 5,000 within 6 months. The chamber erupted in shocked voices, but Kyung-mi continued. The Federation thinks humans are soft because we choose cooperation over conflict. They think we're weak because we prefer building to fighting. They think we're harmless because we haven't shown them our weapons. She changed the display to show technical specifications that made the assembled politicians gasp. Ships that could travel faster than any Federation vessel, weapons that could crack planets, defensive systems that could stop anything the galaxy had ever built. How? Whispered President Jae-sung. Because while they were playing politics and status games, we were studying, Kyung-mi replied. Every Federation technology we encountered, we improved. Every alien ship that visited our worlds, we scanned. Every species we met, we learned their weaknesses. General Taeho was staring at his reports in amazement. Admiral, these technical specifications, some of this technology is centuries ahead of Federation standards. Humans are very good at learning from our mistakes, she said. We made the mistake of trusting the Federation once. We won't make it again. On the main screen, the first of Earth's hidden fleet was emerging into open space. The UES Retribution, a battleship 3 times the size of the largest Federation vessel, moved with grace that belied its massive armament. President Jae-sung felt a strange mixture of relief and horror. Admiral, why wasn't I told about this? Because politicians make political decisions, Kyung-mi replied. And this wasn't a political decision. This was a survival decision, made by people who understood what we were really dealing with. She turned to address the entire assembly. 50 years ago, humanity chose to hide our true nature from the galaxy. We pretended to be weak, harmless, grateful for whatever scraps the Federation threw us. We did this because we hoped we were wrong about what kind of galaxy this really was. The display showed the new Soul recordings again, bodies in the streets, children crying for parents who would never answer. New Soul proved we weren't wrong. The galaxy is exactly what we thought it was. A place where the strong prey on the weak, where mercy is seen as weakness, and where being different is a death sentence. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Federation wanted to see what humans were really like when we stopped pretending to be harmless. They're about to get their wish. Outside the building, the crowds had started chanting again. But the chant had changed. Instead of demanding war, they were chanting something else. Earth remembers, Earth remembers. What are your orders, Admiral? Asked General Taeho. Signal the fleet, Kyung-mi replied. Begin Phase 1 operations. Target: every Federation. Military installation within 50 light-years of Earth. Rules of engagement: there are no rules. Show them what humans do to those who hurt our families. President Jae-sung stood slowly. Admiral, once we start this, there's no going back. The Federation will see us as an existential threat. Sir, with respect, they already do, Kyung-mi replied. They just proved it by murdering 2.3 million civilians. The only question now is whether we die on our knees begging for mercy or standing up showing them what we really are. She activated her fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Kyung-mi. 50 years ago, we chose to hide our strength in the hope that the galaxy was better than we feared. Today, New Soul burned, and our hope died with it. Her voice carried to every human ship now powering up throughout the solar system. The Federation thinks we are weak prey animals, suitable only for dangerous labor and casual extermination. They are about to learn that humans are not prey. We are predators who chose to be peaceful. That choice has been taken from us, the First battle groups were already moving toward the edge of the solar system, their destination, Federation space. Remember, New Soul. Remember that mercy is a choice we make, not a weakness we suffer from. Remember that we tried to be their friends, and they decided to be our enemies. The transmission ended, but the message was clear. For 50 years, humanity had worn a mask of peaceful cooperation. Now that mask was gone, and the galaxy was about to see what had been hiding underneath. As the hidden fleet of Earth moved toward its first targets, one truth became clear to everyone watching. The Federation had made the classic mistake of every predator in human history. They had assumed that because their prey didn't fight back immediately, it couldn't fight back at all. They were about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. And for 2.3 million dead souls on New Soul, that lesson was going to be written in fire and blood across the stars. Admiral Chang Ho stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the Federation military base at Rigel 7 grow larger on the main screen. 6 months had passed since New Soul burned, and this would be humanity's first real test of war against the Federation. Fleet status report, he ordered. All ships ready, sir, replied Captain Yun Young from her position at the tactical station. 300 vessels in attack formation. The Federation base shows no signs they've detected us yet. Chang Ho nodded. The new stealth technology was working perfectly. The Federation's sensors were designed to detect their own ships and energy signatures. Human technology had developed along completely different lines, making their vessels nearly invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. Intelligence update on the target? Commander Inho stepped forward with a datapad. Rigel 7 base is home to Admiral Thexkar, the Vorthak commander who led the attack on New Sol. Current garrison is approximately 50,000 Federation personnel, mostly Vorthak and Nexari. They have a fleet of 200 ships for system. Defense. Any civilians? Negative, sir. This is a pure military installation. No families, no non-combatants. Chang Ho felt a cold satisfaction at that news. After New Sol, the distinction between military and civilian targets had become very important to human commanders. The Federation had shown no such restraint, but humanity would. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the base, reported Communications Officer Jun Ho. They're demanding we identify ourselves. Put it on screen. The view screen showed a Vorthak officer in Federation uniform. His reptilian features showed confusion and anger. Unknown vessels, you have entered Federation space without authorization. Identify yourselves immediately or we will open fire. Chang Ho stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. This is Admiral Chang Ho of the Terran Defense Force. We are here for Admiral Thexkar. The Vorthak officer's expression changed to one of disbelief. Terran? You mean human? This is impossible. Humans don't have military vessels of this size. We have many things the Federation doesn't know about, Chang Ho replied calmly. Surrender Admiral Thexkar, and we will allow the rest of your base to evacuate. You dare threaten a Federation military installation? With what? A handful of mining ships? Chang Ho almost smiled. Captain Yun Young, show them what human mining ships can do. Yes, sir. Weapons online. Target. The base's outer defense grid. The Retribution's main batteries opened fire. Beams of coherent energy that had never been seen in Federation space lanced out, striking the base's shield generators. Instead of the slow, predictable energy weapons the Federation used, human weapons fired streams of particles accelerated to near light speed. The base's shields collapsed in seconds. Impossible, whispered the Vorthak officer on screen. Our shields can withstand anything the Federation has. We're not the Federation, Chang Ho replied. We're something much worse for people who hurt our families. The base's commander, Admiral Thexkar himself, appeared on the communication channel. Chang Ho recognized him from the New Sol recordings, the same reptilian features, the same cold eyes that had watched human children die. So the humans have found some backbone after all, Thexkar said. Very impressive ships. Did you steal Federation technology to build them? We built them with human ingenuity and 50 years of careful preparation, Chang Ho answered. The same ingenuity you dismissed when you murdered 2.3 million civilians. New Sol was a necessary action to prevent genetic contamination. The ID, Federation's biological purity must be maintained. Chang Ho felt his anger rising, but kept his voice level. And now humanity's survival must be maintained. Surrender yourself for trial, and your people can live. Thexkar's laugh sounded like grinding metal. You think 300 primitive human ships can defeat a Federation battle group? We have 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Captain Yun Young, deploy the nanites. Yes, sir. Nanite dispersal pattern alpha. Target, all Federation vessels. Invisible to the naked eye, clouds of microscopic machines spread from the human fleet toward the Federation ships. The nanites had been specifically designed using biological data the Federation had collected on their own species 50 years ago. Data they had shared freely, never imagining it could be used as a weapon. What are you doing? Thexkar demanded. Teaching you the difference between advanced technology and effective technology, Chang Ho replied. The first Federation ship to be affected was a Vorthak destroyer. Its hull began to dissolve as nanites targeted the specific metal alloys used in Vorthak. Construction. The ship's systems failed one by one as the microscopic machines dismantled it at the molecular level. Nanite attack! Someone screamed on the Federation channel. All ships, emergency protocols! But there were no protocols for this kind of weapon. The Federation had never developed nanotechnology for warfare, considering it too dangerous and unpredictable. They preferred large, obvious weapons that made impressive displays of power. Humans preferred weapons that worked. One by one, the Federation ships began to break apart, not from explosions or energy beams, but from systematic molecular disassembly. Their hulls simply stopped being solid matter. "Stop this!" Thexkar shouted. "This is against all civilized rules of warfare." "You should have thought about civilized rules before you targeted hospitals and schools," Chang Ho replied coldly. In less than an hour, the entire Federation fleet was reduced to its component atoms, drifting in space like metallic dust. The humans had not fired a single conventional weapon after the initial shield destruction. "Surrender now," Chang Ho ordered, "or we'll show you what we do to military bases." Thexkar's response was to order his base's weapons to open fire on the human fleet. Massive energy cannons and missile launchers sent everything they had at the approaching ships. "Defensive screens," ordered Captain Yun Young. The human ships didn't dodge or weave. They simply ignored the Federation weapons. Energy beams that could crack moons splashed harmlessly against defensive fields that bent space itself. Missiles that could destroy cities simply vanished into pocket dimensions the moment they touched the human ships. "How is this possible?" Thexkar whispered. 50 years of studying Federation technology and finding better solutions," Chang Ho answered. "You've been fighting the same wars the same way for centuries. We've been innovating." Commander Inho stepped forward. "Sir, all Federation ships are neutralized. The base's weapons are ineffective against our defenses. Your orders?" Chang Ho considered his options. The base held 50,000 Federation personnel, including the being responsible for New Sol's destruction. Military doctrine called for complete elimination of the threat, but human doctrine was different. "Open a channel to all Federation personnel on the base," he ordered. "Channel open, sir. This is Admiral Chang Ho to all Federation military personnel at Rigel 7. You have 1 hour to evacuate this installation. Take only personal belongings. All military equipment remains here." "And if we refuse?" Thexkar asked. "Then you'll share the fate of New Sol," Chang Ho replied simply. "The choice is yours." For 45 minutes, Federation evacuation ships launched from the base. Chang Ho watched 50,000 beings flee in terror from an enemy they had thought harmless just hours before. Thexkar was on the last ship to leave. His final transmission was filled with venom. "This isn't over, human. The Federation will crush your pathetic species for this." "Admiral Thexkar," Chang Ho said quietly, "the Federation already tried to crush us. You succeeded in killing 2.3 million civilians. Now we're going to show you what happens when you don't succeed in killing all of us." After the last evacuation ship cleared the area, Chang Ho gave his final order. "Captain Yun Young, destroy the base. Complete sterilization." The Retribution's weapons fired once more, but these weren't the particle beams they had used on the shields. These were weapons that converted matter directly into energy. The entire military base, with all its advanced technology and defensive systems, simply ceased to exist. Where a moment before there had been a structure capable of housing 50,000 beings, now there was only empty space. "Message transmitted to Federation High Command," reported Jun Ho. "Text only. Remember New Sol. This is what mercy looks like. Next time, there won't be evacuation ships." As the human fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Chang Ho felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. They had won their first victory against the Federation, and they had done it while showing more mercy than their enemies had shown at New Sol. But he knew this was only the beginning. The Federation would not accept this humiliation quietly. They would come with larger fleets, more weapons, greater determination to eliminate the human threat. They still didn't understand what they were facing. The Federation saw warfare as a contest between militaries with rules and honor and limitations. They fought to demonstrate superiority and enforce compliance. Humans fought to win. And when humans fought to protect their families, there were no rules except victory. The galaxy was about to learn the difference between civilized warfare and total war. And humanity was about to show them why a species that had survived everything Earth could throw at them was not something to be casually exterminated. The first strike had been delivered. The real war was just beginning. 1 year after New Sol burned, the galaxy was learning what human anger looked like when it was no longer contained by hope for peace. General Myung-ho stood in the command center of the UES Terra's Wrath, watching holographic displays that showed 40 different star systems simultaneously. Each display showed the same thing: Federation forces retreating before advancing human fleets. Status report, he ordered. Sector 7. Admiral Sujin's fleet has taken the Nexari shipyards. At Altair. No survivors among military personnel. Civilian populations evacuated successfully. Sector 12. Commander Wu Jin's special forces have disabled the main Federation communication hub at Deneb. Intelligence networks disrupted across 15 systems. Sector 23. Captain Gyuri's carrier group has eliminated the Kelvin. Defense platforms at Vega, Federation supply lines to the Outer Rim are now completely severed. Myung-ho nodded with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. While the Federation scrambled to understand what humanity had become, human forces were systematically dismantling the infrastructure that held their empire together. "Sir, we have an incoming transmission from the Federation High Command," reported Communications Officer Hei Wan. "They're requesting a meeting under diplomatic immunity." "Put it through." The hologram showed a crystalline Nexari, its form shimmering, with what humans had learned to recognize as extreme agitation. This was Crystal Singer Veltar, one of the most senior members of the Federation Council. "General Myung-ho, I am authorized by the Federation High Command to negotiate an immediate ceasefire." "I'm listening," Myung-ho replied, though his tone suggested he wasn't particularly interested. "The Federation acknowledges that the new Seoul incident was regrettable. We are prepared to offer substantial compensation and return all human-controlled territories to Earth's direct administration." Myung-ho actually laughed. "Crystal Singer, you seem to misunderstand the situation. We don't want our territories back. We want your surrender." The crystalline being's form flickered with what might have been shock. "Surrender? General, surely you understand that the Federation controls thousands of worlds. Your species controls fewer than 100 systems." "Quality over quantity," Myung-ho replied. "Admiral Sujin, would you like to explain to our guest what we've learned about Federation military capabilities?" Admiral Sujin stepped into view. Her uniform bore the new insignia of the Terran Navy, a closed fist surrounded by stars. "Crystal Singer Veltar, in the past year we have engaged Federation forces in over 200 battles. Our casualties? Fewer than 3,000 personnel. Federation casualties, over 2 million military personnel, and the complete destruction of 6 major fleet bases." "Impossible," Veltar chimed. "The problem with Federation military doctrine," Sujin continued, "is that it was designed for fighting. Other Federation species, you all use the same technology, the same tactics, the same weapons. You've been fighting each other for so long that you've forgotten how to fight something truly different." Myung-ho activated a tactical display showing recent battle footage. Federation ships moved in predictable formations, used energy weapons that human shields easily deflected, and relied on armor that human nanites could dissolve. "Humans spent 50 years studying how you fight," he explained. "We designed our military specifically to counter Federation tactics. Every human weapon exists because we identified a weakness in Federation defenses. Every human defense exists because we knew what Federation weapons could do." "You cannot win a war against the entire galaxy," Veltar insisted. "We don't need to," Myung-ho replied calmly. "We just need to win a war against you." The transmission was interrupted by an urgent alert. "General, we have a massive Federation fleet approaching the Sol system. Over 500 ships, including their flagship Dominion." Myung-ho felt a moment of satisfaction. The Federation was finally bringing their full strength to bear on Earth itself. They still thought this was about territory and resources. "Fleet disposition?" he asked. "All major Federation species represented. Vorthak, battle cruisers, Nexari crystal ships, Kelvin gas giant dreadnoughts, and at least 12 species we haven't seen before." "Excellent. Signal Admiral Kyung-mi on Luna Base. Tell her the Federation is finally coming to play seriously." Veltar's crystalline form brightened with apparent hope. "General, you cannot possibly resist a fleet of that size with whatever forces you have in your home system." "You're right," Myung-ho agreed. "We can't resist them. We're going to destroy them." 6 hours later, the Federation's Grand Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 500 of the largest, most advanced warships in the galaxy formed a battle line that stretched across millions of kilometers. Admiral Thexkar, now commanding the entire Federation fleet from the flagship Dominion, opened communications to Earth. Humans of Earth, this is your final warning. Surrender immediately and submit to Federation justice, or we will reduce your world to ash as we did New Sol. The response came from Admiral Kyung-mi aboard the Luna Defense Platform. Admiral Thexkar, this is Admiral Kyung-mi. Before you begin your attack, we thought you should know something about human nature. I know everything I need to know about humans, Thexkar snarled. No, you don't. You know about the humans we let you see. The peaceful miners, the cooperative colonists, the diplomatic ambassadors. You've never met the humans we keep hidden. What are you talking about? Humans, Admiral, come in two varieties. There are the ones who build gardens and raise children and dream of peace. And then there are the ones who guard the gardeners. On every planet in the Sol system, massive structures began to emerge from underground installations. Not ships, but weapons platforms that dwarfed even the largest Federation vessels. For 50 years, the gardeners have been talking to your Federation, Kyung-mi continued. Today, you get to meet the Guardians. The Sol defense grid came online all at once. Luna Base revealed itself to be not a simple outpost, but a fortress that could have held off armies. Mars opened weapon ports that had been disguised as mining operations. The asteroid belt lit up with defensive platforms that had been hidden among the rocks, and from Earth itself, the Home Guard emerged. Ships that had never left the solar system because they had been built for one purpose, to ensure that nothing hostile ever reached humanity's homeworld. Impossible, Thexkar whispered. We've had observers in this system for decades. Where did all this come from? From the same place everything human comes from, Kyung-mi replied. Necessity and determination. You wanted to see what humans do when we stop pretending to be harmless. Congratulations. The battle that followed lasted 4 hours and became known as the Solar Massacre. The Federation fleet, despite overwhelming numbers and advanced technology, was systematically destroyed by defensive systems they had never imagined. Human weapons didn't just damage Federation ships, they rewrote their matter at the quantum level. Human defenses didn't just deflect attacks. They absorbed the energy and converted it into more firepower. Most importantly, human tactics didn't follow any pattern the Federation understood. There were no honorable ship-to-ship duels, no dramatic fleet maneuvers, no chance for surrender or retreat. The humans fought like they were exterminating pests. When the last Federation ship was reduced to its component atoms, Admiral Kyung-mi sent a message to every Federation world simultaneously. This is Admiral Kyung-mi of the Terran Defense Force, speaking to the Federation High Command and all member species. The Federation fleet that came to destroy Earth has been eliminated. 500 ships and approximately 2 million personnel are now space dust around our sun. She paused to let that information sink in across the galaxy. For 50 years, humanity has tried to be your friends. We followed your laws, paid your taxes, died in your mines, and asked for nothing but the chance to exist peacefully. You responded by murdering 2.3 million of our civilians for the crime of being different. Another pause. Today, the Federation learned what happens when you mistake human restraint for human weakness. Tomorrow, you will learn what happens when that restraint is removed entirely. The transmission ended, but its message was clear. The Federation's greatest military force had been annihilated by what they had thought was the weakest species in the galaxy. Across Federation space, alien leaders looked at their own defenses and realized they had no idea how to fight an enemy like this. Their technology was centuries behind human capabilities. Their tactics were based on civilized warfare against equals. The humans weren't fighting a civilized war against equals. They were fighting a war of extermination against the species that had proven they could not be trusted to coexist with humanity. General Myung-ho received reports from across the galaxy as the news of Sol's victory spread. Federation member species were surrendering without fighting. Alien colonies were evacuating rather than face human fleets. The very name Terran was becoming synonymous with unstoppable force. "Sir," reported his aide, "we have another transmission from Crystal Singer, Veltar. Put it through." The Nexari appeared on screen, its crystalline form dim with defeat. "General Myung-ho, the Federation formally requests terms for complete surrender." "I'm afraid surrender isn't an option," Myung-ho replied calmly. "Surrender implies you might be 5 years after the New Soul Massacre, Emperor Sang-Ho of the Terran hegemony stood on the observation deck of the New Soul Memorial Station, looking out at the stars that now belonged to humanity. The memorial station orbited where the colony had once thrived, a massive structure built from the same materials that had formed New Soul's buildings. At its center was a garden where 2.3 million lights represented each life lost, each one bearing the name of someone who had died believing in peace. "Your Majesty," said Director Nari, approaching with her daily report, "the annual remembrance ceremony is ready to begin." Sang-Ho nodded, still looking out at the stars. "How many alien leaders are attending this year?" "All of them, sir. Every species government representative, as required by the Terran Accords. As Emperor, Sang-Ho could have chosen any title, any ceremony, any symbol of power. Instead, he chose to be remembered as the human who ensured that New Soul would never be forgotten and never be repeated." The ceremony began in the memorial's central chamber. Representatives from every species that had once belonged to the Federation stood in respectful silence as human children read the names of the dead. It took 6 hours to read all 2.3 million names, and no one was allowed to leave. "We gather here," Sang-Ho said when the reading was complete, "not to celebrate victory, but to remember the price of that victory. These people died because they believed in a galaxy where different species could coexist peacefully." He looked directly at the alien representatives, many of whom had been present when the Federation voted to sterilize New Soul. They were wrong. The galaxy was not ready for peaceful coexistence, but their deaths taught humanity an important lesson. Peace is not something you hope for, it's something you enforce. After the ceremony, Sang-Ho met with his senior staff in the memorial's administrative center. The room was deliberately modest. Humanity had learned to distrust those who sought power for its own sake. "Status report on galactic integration," he requested. General Hyun-Soo stepped forward with the quarterly report. "All former Federation worlds are now under Terran administration. The transition continues smoothly in most sectors. Resistance? Minimal, Your Majesty. Most species prefer Terran oversight to the chaos that followed Federation collapse. We've had only 12 incidents of organized resistance in the past year, all quickly resolved." Sang-Ho nodded. The Terran approach to governance was simple. Alien species could maintain their cultures, their traditions, and their local governments. But anything that affected security, military matters, or interspecies relations fell under human authority. "Report on the rehabilitation programs." Director, Nari activated a holographic display showing progress across hundreds of worlds. The demilitarization programs are ahead of schedule. Former Federation military personnel are being successfully integrated into civilian populations. The psychological counseling programs for species who participated in the New Soul Massacre are showing positive results. Any requests for military restoration? None this quarter. Most species seem to find civilian life less stressful than the constant warfare they experienced under Federation rule. It was true. Without the pressure to maintain military forces for territorial disputes and resource competition, many alien civilizations were experiencing cultural renaissance periods. The Nexari had returned to their traditional crystal-singing arts. The Vorthak were developing philosophy and literature. The Kelvins were exploring scientific research they had abandoned. During their military period, what about the memorial education programs? Ambassador Hyun-Soo, formerly Earth's representative to the Federation and now Director of Interspecies Understanding, provided that report. Every alien child in the hegemony now learns about New Soul as part of their standard education. The curriculum includes the history of the massacre, the Federation's decision-making process, and the consequences of those decisions. Response from parents? Positive, mostly. Many alien parents express gratitude that their children are learning about the importance of protecting civilian populations. The lessons about the dangers of racial supremacy and casual violence are being well received. Sang-Ho walked to the memorial's central display, where images of New Soul before the massacre played in an endless loop. Children playing in parks, families working in gardens, people of different species living together peacefully. "Are we the good guys, Nari?" he asked quietly. She considered the question seriously. "We're the necessary guys, Your Majesty. The Galaxy proved it couldn't govern itself without committing genocide. We've ended genocide, ended wars of conquest, and ended the casual slaughter of civilians. If that makes us good, then yes. But we've also ended alien self-determination. We've ended alien self-determination over matters that affect other species, she corrected. Local governance, cultural practices, religious beliefs, all of that remains under species control. What we've ended is the ability of any species to make decisions that could harm others. It was the central philosophy of the Terran hegemony. Freedom to live as you choose, within the boundaries of not harming others. The boundaries were enforced by humans because humans had proven they would actually enforce them consistently. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority transmission. "Your Majesty," said Communications Officer Jinnah, "we have a message from the Outer Rim territories. Cadet Recruitment Command reports that applications for the Terran Defense Force continue to exceed expectations." "From human colonies?" "From all species, sir. Young beings across the galaxy are volunteering to serve in human military units." This was perhaps the most surprising development of the past 5 years. Rather than resenting human dominance, many young aliens actively sought to join the forces that maintained it. Why do they want to serve? According to their application essays, they want to be part of something that protects innocent people, Jinnah reported. Many specifically mention New Soul as their motivation for joining. Sang-Ho found this deeply ironic. The Federation, massacre meant to eliminate human genetic influence, had instead made human values attractive to the entire galaxy. "Your Majesty," said General Hyun-Soo, "if I may raise a strategic concern?" "Of course." "We're approaching a generational transition point. The beings who remember the Federation are aging out of leadership positions. The new generation has only known Terran governance. They don't understand why the restrictions exist. It was a concern that kept Sang-Ho awake many nights. How do you teach future generations about the necessity of vigilance when they've only known peace? Recommendations? The memorial programs need to be expanded. Every leader, every graduate, every person in a position of responsibility should be required to spend time here, learning what happened when the galaxy was left to govern itself. Sang-Ho nodded. Approved. Draft the necessary orders. As his staff prepared to leave, Sang-Ho walked to the memorial's central monument. Carved into black stone were the words that had become the foundation of Terran policy. Never again. Not never again would humans suffer genocide. Never again would anyone suffer genocide. The Terran hegemony existed to ensure that no species would ever again face the choice between submission and extermination. "Jinnah," he called to the young communications officer. "Yes, Your Majesty?" "You represent the first generation born after the awakening. Do you understand why we do this? Why humanity rules the galaxy?" Jinnah considered her answer carefully. She was young, but she had grown up with the stories, the memorials, the constant reminders of what the galaxy had been like before humans enforced peace. "Because someone has to," she said simply, and everyone else proved they couldn't be trusted with the responsibility. "Do you think we can be trusted with it?" "I think we're the only species that ask that question," she replied. Everyone else just assumed they deserved power because they could take it. Humans worry about whether we deserve power because we remember what it costs. As Sang-Ho looked out at the stars of the Terran hegemony, he thought about the future Jinnah represented. A generation that had never known war, never seen genocide, never experienced the casual cruelty that had characterized galactic civilization before human intervention. They would face their own choices someday. They would inherit the responsibility of keeping the peace their parents had built. They would decide whether humanity's role as galactic guardian was permanent or temporary. But they would make those decisions in a galaxy where 2.3 million lights burned in memory of what happened when peace was left unguarded. They would make them knowing that the price of failure was not just defeat, but the return of casual brutality and systemic oppression. "Never again," Sang-Ho whispered to the stars. Behind him, the memorial continued its eternal vigil, ensuring that the galaxy would remember the cost of peace and the responsibility of those strong enough to enforce it. The lights of New Soul would burn forever, not as a symbol of humanity's grief, but as a promise that such grief would never be necessary again. Humanity had not sought to rule the galaxy, but the galaxy had proven it could not rule itself without destroying the innocent. So humans would bear that burden, generation after generation, ensuring that the choice between peace and survival would never again be forced upon anyone. The mask of peaceful cooperation was gone forever. In its place was something far